So far, we have been talking about justice as if it is something outside our day to day experience. But that is not necessarily strictly the case because justice, as we understand, is present everywhere all the time. We can see justice and injustice everywhere. The interplay between justice and injustice, the dynamics, it's almost like a game. Justice and injustice are just two faces of the same coin. When we say God is just, we usually want to imply that God is good. But that's not necessarily true. A just God has to be good as well as bad as well as ugly. God has three forms, right? Good, bad, and ugly. God that is good is not different from God that is bad, is not different from God that is ugly. This truth we need to understand to appreciate the value of justice. When we say, "Oh God, please do justice to me," what I am really implying is, "Oh God, please be good to me." But that is not necessarily an optimal seeking. An optimal seeker will not seek God only for his or her goodness. An optimal seeker will seek God no matter what God is. Even if God is ugly, so what? The point is whether God is good, bad, or ugly is beyond our comprehension. Hence, the best we can do is devote all of our life, all of our energy to God, and only to God, without regard to whether God is good, bad, or ugly. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, when we talk about justice, we have to keep in mind that, first of all, we don't know what justice means. Okay, I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Like, we really don't know. When God is talking about justice, it's at a very different plane. It's at a very high plane that we can only probably scratch, not even the surface, but the surface of the surface of the surface. That is impossible. So, what is really possible is devotion, love. If we love God, if we love God with all our heart, with all our might, with all our life, then we can be definite, we can be sure, it is definite that God will come to us. It is definite, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Now, what happens when God comes to us? Justice. God comes to us in the form of justice, dharma. When we see a flourish of internal justice, of course it can manifest externally as well, but at least internally the justice has to manifest. The dharma has to manifest in the lives. We have to emulate dharma. Not just emulate, we have to become dharma. We have to become Yudhishthira. We have to become dharma. We have to fight the war every day, every moment we have to fight. We have to become, not just preaching and teaching, no. We have to become. The love, we have to become the love. And then only we understand the deep mystery, that is justice. Justice is mysterious. Justice is difficult. Justice is wise. Now, what is justice? So, again, in the Bhagavad Gita, God is taking a lot of different positions in different occasions because he has to cater to the need of different moments. That doesn't mean God was being unjust. That doesn't mean God was being full of injustice. No. It simply means that God was acting differently according to the needs of the time, of the moment. That does not imply injustice. Because if God were unjust, if God were to be unjust, then all hell would have broken loose. But that never happened. What happened instead was, for different purposes, with different people, with different attitudes, in different moments, we get different notions of justice. With good people, people who are very good, justice is most of the times not an issue. because we know they are good. If they are already good, then okay, I mean that's fine. That's if they are good, then there is not much we can do. Whereas if people are bad, then there is we have to admonish them. We have to tell them, no, this is not right. You better do this. You better do that. Whereas people who are ugly, who won't even listen to your preaching or whatever, you know, for them, you really have to do justice by going to court, for example, by bringing a lawsuit, because otherwise they won't listen and they won't even understand that they are wrong. And that is the hardest class of people, the most difficult people. People that the Lord has actually referred to in a particular chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. And that's important. Like, I think it is, it is chapter 16th. So in chapter 16th and then going on, continuing into chapter 17 and even parts of chapter 18, the Lord actually mentioned what ugly people look like. They don't listen to anything, really. I mean, they don't have any idea. They don't have any thoughts about, they don't think clearly. Okay, so they really don't know what they are doing. So for example, when Jesus Christ was crucified, he said, "Oh Lord, please forgive these people as they don't know what they are doing." And that's absolutely correct. The ugly people, the asuric people, the demonic people, they have no idea what they are doing. Hence, they commit irreparable harm, unthinkable injustice, and still think they are very just. And that perspective cannot be tolerated. Hence, God Himself descends on earth from time to time to rid the earth of the evil, to rid the earth of these demonic people, demonic dispositions, and He rids them off. He gets them all rid of. How? By war, by conflicts. That's why conflict is absolutely necessary when it comes to getting rid of demonic possessions. Demonic possessions we cannot get rid of simply by preaching or teaching or by lofty ideals. No, because they have no idea. They cannot absorb the highest flights of Vedanta. It's impossible. Hence, for them, it is only appropriate that they are got rid of completely, especially in a violent conflict. It usually ends in a violent conflict and bloody conflict. That's how it ends. It's very fortunate. We are very lucky that most of the people are not behaving that way. Most of the people are not like that. It's probably at most 1/3 of people, like maybe 30% of the people are like that. So we are actually already good. I mean, we are in good hands, so to speak, because we don't have to deal with that kind of ugliness every moment. But people who have to deal with those kinds of ugliness, they have to think about conflicts, in terms of conflicts. But justice doesn't have to involve conflict at every moment. Justice for good people is love. For good people, if you simply love them, they will understand you. Not just understand, they will listen to you. They will do your bidding. They will do what you are telling them to do. They will not, throw tantrums. They will not have any problems. They have, okay, fine, they will do it. Bad people, on the other hand, will put up a lot of resistance. They will go their own way. They will fail again and again and again and again, and maybe after years or decades, they will come back to you or come back at you. That why didn't you give them the right advice in the wrong time? They will come back to you at the wrong time, at the wrongest possible time. And they will say, why didn't you give us the correct advice? Right? So it's impossible. Like bad people, already things start to get, out of hand, impossible. Like it's very difficult. For ugly people, it's actually even worse. For ugly people, we have no way to control them at all, other than just simply getting rid of them. For example, in a war, or in a battle, or in a skirmish, we have no idea. Now, that's what actually God is mentioning very interestingly, and we really don't, I don't know much, but we don't discuss much about chapters 16, 17 and 18 from that angle. Like God is actually describing Daivaha Vistarashaha Proktah Asuram Partha Me Shrenu. So God is saying, O Arjuna, I have already told you about the good people. I have already told you about the Rajasic, the middle people, the bad people, but I have not told you about the ugly people. Let me tell you about the ugly people, so that you have an idea of how to deal with the ugliness, so pervasive in society. We usually don't care about ugliness because we don't like it. We shy away from it because we think that ugliness means bad. But no, we cannot avoid it. Ugliness is a part of life, it cannot be avoided. Hence, we have to deal with it. How do you deal with it? Again and again, God is saying, Moodha, Moodha. They are Moodha. They are full of bad thoughts. They are full of idleness, laziness. They are lazy people. They are useless people. Get rid of them. Completely get rid of them. They have no other way. Okay? They will never understand Vedanta, let alone they will never even understand life. They will not even lead a proper life, let alone Vedanta. Vedanta is the last thing. Veda Anta, the last thing of Veda. Right? So they will not even understand Veda. How? What to say? Talk about Vedanta. Right? So the best thing we can do for ugly people is actually to get rid of them. Either avoid them or kill them, or get rid of them. Now, who are the ugly people? We cannot just say, okay, kill them, right? Because then we might end up killing good people and bad people. That is not right. Who are ugly people? God is actually mentioning the ugly people in chapter 16. And then moving on into chapter 17 and even 18. So we will discuss the nature of ugly people, so that is the best way to drive home the point of justice, starting from the ugly, not starting from the good. We talk about good all the time. We should really talk about the ugliness. And God is very specific when He mentions ugliness. So we will talk about that in the next session. Thank you very much. Pranams. May God bless you.